Pleasant afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me welcome you to Trinidad and Tobago Police Service weekly media briefing for Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. A special welcome to all our viewers streaming live on Facebook and also live on TV6 and CNC3. Allow me to acknowledge the composition of the head table this afternoon. We have the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Griffith. We also have Acting Deputy Commissioner with the responsibility of Intelligence and Investigations, Mr. McDonald, and the head of the legal unit, Mr. Chandler. I now turn you over now to the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Griffith.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Mystar. Members of the media, good afternoon. I will spend more time this afternoon trying to take questions from the media and to clarify matters. And we are right now, as we are fully aware, we are in the middle of a crisis in this country. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we obviously involved heavily in an operation. It is continuing. And as we go along, every single day there's going to be an issue. And so at times we'll need to clarify certain matters to bring forward to the public to assist in making sure that we can minimize the number of issues that would take place. Communication is the key. And on many occasions, we have understood that there have been sometimes misinterpretation of the regulations. Sometimes persons will try to have ignorance of the law. So this is an ideal opportunity for members of the media just to bring forward any questions that you feel that can be of assistance to clarify any matters to the public. Before we get there are just one or two situations I want to bring to the attention of the public through the media. Thank you very much. What we'd just like to do is to clarify. What we've seen, there have been a few situations in the media over the last few days, and it has been unfortunately inaccurate, inappropriate, at times even bordering on the fact that persons are making comments on issues without understanding the facts, and that's what we're here for, to clarify. A minor one has to do initially with the situation right now with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, how we operate as it pertains to dealing with the concerns of abuse of mostly women from sexual predators, how we deal with issues in how the police service, how we interact with other agencies. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, you would have seen that we have been very proactive dealing with the concerns of gender-based violence, even recently as it pertains to the establishment of a gender-based violence unit, how we have operated dealing with rescuing women, dealing with sexual predators, persons who have, and then very soon we will be dealing with issues as it pertains to child pornography, and dealing with rescuing elderly persons from being enslaved practically. So there's a lot that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is doing. Unfortunately, a week or so ago, release was sent by an organization. That release, it was littered with irregularities. And what was very unfortunate, the only reason I'm bringing this back up is that after this was sent, the organization understood the problem, the comment that they made, because the comment, this was from Romantra, when the comments that came from Romantra stated that there were assaults, no one was arrested. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service decided to clarify that inaccurate comment. Romantra then sent us a release to state that, where is Griffith? Why hasn't he come out and addressed the public in light of these crimes? It seems that Romantra didn't get newspapers or understand what the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service we have been doing. And they continue along the line. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, obviously, it seems that there's a situation now where persons can say what they want about the police service, and whether it is inaccurate or not, it is irrelevant, because that is democracy. But if the police service decides to clarify matters, which we think we should, because we think the objective of the media is to make sure that persons get the right information. And when we respond, people get offended. So we sent a very professional release where we explained that out of the 484 complaints, there were 57 persons charged. We explained that from the Joint Select Committee, everything that was done, the commendations we got, the formation, as I mentioned, of the gender-based violence unit, or the number of activities that would have been taking place to stop human trafficking, as I said, child pornography, child prostitution, and all of this. And then even the very soon to be established sexual offenses unit. unfortunately, lo and behold, Newsday then pops up, and it seems that Judy Raymond and the Newsday, they have, I don't know, I would really like to ask what is the issue here with the Newsday. I think I think it's about 20 consecutive editorials by Judy Raymond in the Newsday, all negative of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. So Judy Raymond then sends a document on the editorial in the Newsday stating that the commissioner omitted to explain that out of the 57 persons charged, no one was convicted. Unfortunately, Judy Raymond does not understand the difference between an arrest, a charge, and a conviction. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we have very little at times involvement when it comes to conviction. We will do all that is required. So it is not that we are blaming anyone, but I think it is very unfair when organizations, especially certain arms of the media, see it fit that persons could say what they want to discredit the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service when we've been doing so much. We are not perfect, neither is the media, neither is anyone, or anyone I should say. But when it is we try to clarify a matter, it then becomes a concern. So Judy Raymond in an editorial had no concern that Romantra gave inaccurate information about the police. But when the police decides to clarify the matter, only then Judy Raymond has an issue. So it is a situation of that, again, I continue to state, it is not democracy, that is hypocrisy. As the Commissioner of Police, it is my intention, it is my right to continue to clarify matters, to ensure that the public will be aware if there's misinformation being passed. My job is to make sure I protect my police officers, I defend them if they need to be defended, and to defend this great institution. And if it is at any time persons will break the law or do something in any act contrary to the regulations, we would then so do. And then we'll now move into the other element where I now have on my left the head of legal, Mr. Christian Chandler, and the DCP Intelligence, Mr. Jacob, to clarify a matter that has become a big talking point in the country as it pertains to the Police Complaint Authority's release that was sent to the public as it pertains to an ACP, Mr. Hackshaw. This is not the first time that we have seen the Police Complaint Authority do this. They seem to know, I don't know, if Mr. West wanted to be so much in public life or to get popularity, he should have probably gone up for the election as a politician, because it seems that his new thing now is to push out releases to the public. I mean, all the years I've been around, even in the military, as a politician, I can't recall the PCA pumping out releases of recommendations that they make to the public, and at times even before it gets to the hands of the Commissioner of Police, or even before we can actually complete the recommendation. The unfortunate thing, as I said, this is not the first time that Mr. West has done this. If you recall the incident in the Mova shootings, before there was an investigation, before we even spoke to the officers, he immediately sent a recommendation to have the officers suspended and then sends it to the media before it even gets to my desk. So we knew obviously what the intention was. Now in this situation, yet again, Mr. West has sent correspondence to the media making a recommendation as it pertains to Mr. Hackshaw. I would like to take this opportunity now to clarify the misinformation, the misinterpretation, and everyone has now jumped on this bandwagon on either side, A or nay, as it pertains to this matter. Even Mr. Seals, who became, who all of a sudden he seems to be an expert in understanding this, but when he was in the police association, he didn't even know about when the whole country was shut down for 4 hours, and he was clueless about it, but now he seems to be an expert to understand a situation like this without even understanding the facts. And what we have noticed is the bush lawyer mentality by many persons. And this seems to be an unfortunate situation. So this is why I have both individuals here to clarify certain matters. Before I hand over to Mr. Chandler, again, I just want to clarify this situation where we've heard Mr. West state that this is in the public's interest. And then we have a situation, we see, social media is the avenue for all experts to give their opinion on any matter. The fact of the matter is, if there's an investigation that is ongoing, this here is what Mr. West had provided to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. This is what he provided to me a few weeks ago. After months of investigations by Mr. West, dozens and dozens of investigations and reports, all of this from Mr. West and the Police Complaint Authority, not one thing he has shown to state that Mr. Hackshaw has committed a criminal offense. Nothing. So I want to re-emphasize that. So when it is that we had the comments initially by members of the public that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we were trying to cover up this situation when the police completed their investigation by a very well-trained, respected ACP and Mr. Nurse, and he said there was no criminal findings. Up to now, the PCA then submits investigation into allegations of unusual financial transactions involving Mr. Hackshaw. Why would you send this to the police service and then state, well, we found no criminal findings at this time, but we are still investigating? So then why send this report to me in the first place? What is your excitement to have sent a comprehensive file, hundreds of pages, numerous persons being investigated, and then state that we have nothing yet to show that there's any criminal offense committed? What this has to do is the fact of Mr. West stating that the only thing that they found is the possibility that Mr. Hackshaw may have breached police regulations by working during his vacation period for a few weeks at a time on his own private time without the approval from the Commissioner of Police. Whether this is true or not, that is where the tribunal will take place to verify, because it'll be Mr. Hackshaw's word against whoever would be the person who he claimed that gave him the approval. What is interesting is the person who he claimed he got the approval from was the same individual who sent his files to the FIU. Because this situation, again to clarify, when the FIU triggers an investigation, it is based on a red flag from a bank. In the situation of Mr. Hackshaw, there was never a red flag from a bank. It was a senior officer who decided to go to the FIU to state, investigate this officer for me. So this is one person's word against the other, whether he got the approval or not. But the fact of the matter is, all of this big song and dance, all of these reports in the media, is about an individual who, whilst on his vacation, the PCS claimed that he did not get approval to work for a few days or for a few weeks at a time. That is the big issue. Now, I am not here to trivialize any matter. There are police regulations, but the point is I want to bring to the attention of the public before I hand over to Mr. Chandler, is that when I became Commissioner of Police, or even when I was Minister of National Security, I think there was about a 70% or 75% attendance of police officers for Carnival. And when I noticed, because we had thousands of police officers virtually moonlighting. They were providing security for Heart, Yuma, Tribe, or whatever. We have situations, even a previous very senior police officer who recently retired, he had a farm with sheep or goat or pigs or whatever. They have police officers who sometimes they work in their family business. Some of them during vacation, if they have 2 years vacation, they work on their spare time, working somewhere in a grocery with their family or whatever. What Mr. West is trying to say is that all of these officers should now be investigated and probably be disciplined as well. And that is what this is about. This is about a police officer who did not get approval. Now, I agree with what I am stating, that they should. And that is why, since I took over as Commissioner of Police, I have made it mandatory that all persons who work, even if it is that it's on your spare time, even if it's your own family business, even if it is that you're on vacation for 2 years, please let me know, out of just courtesy, and as well to make sure that you are not doing anything that can embarrass the police service, that can compromise the police service, that is in contrast to actions that the police service can be deemed embarrassing to us if it is revealed. That is what we have been doing now. But for years we've known many police officers on their spare time they have worked. But this big hullabaloo that we are speaking about is not because the person acquired funds illegally, not because of fraud, not because of anything, because up to now the PCA they've been unable to show to me anything that this individual was involved in financial impropriety, he acquired funds through fraudulent means, or that he committed a criminal offense. This is all about a situation that an officer did not, whilst he was on vacation for a year, he worked privately with other people, and he got paid for it, and he didn't get the approval from the Commissioner of Police. This year, if we didn't deal with this could probably turn over national security upside down. That's what this is all about. However, the fact of the matter is that it must be dealt with, because now the PCA sent a recommendation. I think it is very unfortunate, unprofessional, and it lacks ethics, I should say, that the PCA will see it fit to send this out to the public and have the audacity to say that this is in the public's interest. When you make a comment to say that this is in the public's interest, you are basically stating, because this individual is a public servant, every single thing of what Mr. West is alluding to is anytime the PCA is involved in any investigation, at any time they see it fit, that they should inform the public of any matter that is of public's interest, even based on your recommendation, even before a tribunal is held. And with this, I'll now like to hand over to Mr. Chandler to clarify the situation as it pertains to this matter.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. To begin with, I think I should start by just setting a platform in terms of talking about the remit of the Police Complaints Authority. I think that I would have set this out in previous conferences, and I would have alluded to Section 21 of the Police Complaints Authority Act, Chapter 1505, and that gives the general, sets out the general functions of the authority. And that is to investigate criminal offenses involving police officers, police corruption, and serious police misconduct. To start with, there are several others that are undertaken in there, but I won't go into all. But this is the underpinning of what the Police Complaints Authority has to do. Now, further to this, after the conclusion of an investigation, whether it is a preliminary or a complete investigation, the PCA can proffer its recommendations for either criminal or for disciplinary charges to be instituted against a police officer. Now, upon the conclusion of the investigation, the authority shall make an assessment and form an opinion as to whether or not the subject matter of a complainant has or may have occurred, is or may be occurring, or is or may be about to occur. Now, the authority, based on its assessment or opinion under subsection 1 in subsection 44, can recommend whether its consideration should be given to prosecute any person for criminal offenses or to invoke disciplinary proceedings against an officer. So what we have in this instance is a recommendation to institute disciplinary proceedings against ACP Hackshaw. Now, these recommendations have made its way into the public's domain. The challenge with that is that when recommendations such as this make its way into the public domain before we have a tribunal, the difficulty is that it appears as though the information is being put for public consumption so that public pressure could be put on the TTPS and by extension the Commissioner of Police to act upon something. Now, heavy weather has been made of what has been set out in here, and I think that the Commissioner has been very clear as to what has transpired here, in that ACP Nurse would have conducted his own investigation within the TTPS and found no criminal conduct, no criminal offense has been committed. The PCA has also conducted their own investigation, and thus far, all they have unearthed is this disciplinary offense, which is minute. The challenge and the difficulty, as I see it, is that the PCA, right, they have been enjoying a very fruitful and meaningful working relationship with the TTPS quite recently, I would say, with the advent and under the stewardship of the Commissioner taking office and then subsequently with me taking over as head legal. So what has happened is that we have assisted in providing the PCA with information across the board to project and to allow for transparency throughout the length and breadth of the TTPS and to allow the PCA to execute its functions and to do its job properly. However, the actions and the conduct of the PCA by placing such matters in the public domain only has the propensity to erode the public's confidence in the PCA as an institution. And I dare say this simply because the PCA is an independent institution. And it appears as though they are making opinions and recommendations and forming biases without sometimes a thorough, even a preliminary investigation. Case in point, when we spoke about the situation with the Mova shooting, when they called upon the Commissioner of Police to suspend the officers, even without any investigation taking place. And, I mean, there have been instances where it has been alleged that the police has been called the biggest gang in TNT. So when you have biased statements like that, it erodes the public's confidence in the PCA, because the PCA is supposed to conduct its own independent investigations. Now, if it is that there appears to be some bias, then one may ask the question, well, who or what is invoking this bias in the PCA? What is behind this? What is causing this mischief that they would be putting things out there without proper investigations being done? And in this instance, we have disciplinary offenses being recommended. Now, the thing about it is that why we are talking about this is simple. Heavy weather is being made of disciplinary offenses. It is being portrayed as though some criminal act has been conducted by ACP Hackshaw. And that is the perception that is put in the public domain. And the public then cries, well, we are covering up. But it's not that there's no criminal conduct, so there's nothing to cover up. So what is happening is that the PCA, by doing this, is placing the TTPS in a position, in an embarrassing position, might I say, that it is suggesting that, there's nothing being done about it. And it whittles down the ability of the PCA to provide a recommendation of substance, because how can one put its trust in and confidence in the PCA in its ability to do its job independently and impartially? And to that end, the PCA and the TTPS have been working side by side in terms of achieving its goal of justice for all and transparency. So that I would say that we need to stop the bacchanal, the scandalous behavior, the couture and janjat that we want to put in the public domain, that everything is a bacchanal and is a sort of talk about scandal, right? Because we scandalize everything, and this is nothing more than something being scandalized. It is something trivial, because this is in contravention of one of the regulations, and as the Commissioner said, we have hundreds of officers who would have gone, and over many years of time immemorial, who have been working in their private capacity. So why is it that they are not pushing the files for those other officers? Why in particular this particular officer? One must ask the question that, what is so special about Mr. Hackshaw that they're gung-ho and making it, and given this perception that he conducted himself with some criminal intent, when there's nothing there to suggest or any evidence of that. So we must stop that sort of conduct and understand that the far-reaching implication, because these are the things that erode the confidence of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago in the good work of the TTPS. Rather than we spend more time talking about the solving of crime, the recent solving of all those murders, we need to spend more time on straightforward things like that. It also takes me to the issue of instituting the proceedings. The proceedings in terms of, even if we were to cross the threshold now, right, so that we would want to treat with that in a particular way. All right, so I would pause there and allow Commissioner to continue.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chandler. Now, Mr. Chandler was going on to the other aspect, because before we get there, I'd like the General Secretary of the Police Social and Welfare Association, Mr. Forde, to address us. Because before we get into the comments made by Mr. Seals, I saw Mr. Darren Bahau from Newsday also made a comment, because obviously everybody finds all of these bush lawyers to give their view as to what the police can and cannot do. I said, everybody is Constable Brown, they call me Boy Blue, because everyone knows what the police can and cannot do. Even Mr. Darren Bahau, which is totally erroneous, misleading comments by his bush lawyers who he got information from yesterday, stating that the police commissioner can act. So we will clarify that misinterpretation as well. Before I hand over to Mr. Forde again, this year what we have seen, we are very disappointed by the actions of the PCA. But again, we wanted as much as possible, hoping that the director of the PCA would be a little more mature and he would have changed his ways where a few years ago he referred, you are the head of the PCA, and you referred to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service as the biggest gang. That alone shows a degree of bias, it shows unprofessionalism, and we would have hoped that good sense would prevail. To come now to send press releases in a very childlike manner whilst a matter is still ongoing and have the audacity to say that this is in the public's interest because these are public servants. You have now embarrassed and discredited every single public servant by trying to say that as a public servant, because taxes are paid for those public servants, it is the right of the public to know every single issue, manner, query of any single person who is a public servant, even whilst a matter is ongoing. And sometimes, as Mr. Chandler said, when you go public, you can indirectly or directly, or sometimes you do it deliberately to try to turn the angle of how that investigation must go ahead based on public pressure and persuasion. That is why Mr. David West does not understand the importance of confidentiality. And there was nothing to hide. But to try to give a ball-by-ball summary, Mr. West should probably go to the Oval to do CPL commentary than try to be a PCA director, because his actions was totally inappropriate. We do not know if this was a degree of Mr. West being put under pressure and he decided to have a release valve. But what I am not going to accept is trying to give a false impression that you become this great savior of the nation by trying to protect the nation from these big bad police officers from wrongdoing. And all that he has done after all of this time, months and months and months, all that you could come about is that this officer did not get permission to work on your spare time whilst on vacation. Mr. Forde.
Thank you very much, Mr. Commissioner. Pleasant day, members of the media. It is unfortunate that this issue regarding Mr. Hackshaw is a spectacle being displayed within the public's domain. Understanding that the Police Complaints Authority, by law, has responsibilities and it can be determined as role. And the role, or among the roles of the PCA, would be to investigate complaints of corrupt practice or, let us say, serious misconduct on the part of police officers. In this particular case, where the PCA would have conducted an investigation surrounding a matter that is deemed to be a disciplinary breach, the PCA is within their right to submit a report with recommendations to the Commissioner. To put it in the public's domain, it is somewhat unfortunate and should not be continued. Now, having done that, the Commissioner has a responsibility by law to establish a disciplinary tribunal. However, to try to tie the Commissioner to a timeline, understanding that there are several dynamics in place, it is an overstep on the part of the PCA. The Commissioner has to look at the fact that Mr. Hackshaw is an Assistant Commissioner of Police. And in establishing a disciplinary tribunal, he has to bear that in mind, and the tribunal must be made up of officers senior to the rank of Mr. Hackshaw. This current situation is a challenge because of the fact that Mr. Hackshaw is indeed the most senior police officer, second to the Commissioner. And any action that comes out of a disciplinary tribunal, that is, any recommendation, is made to the Commissioner. Therefore, the Commissioner himself cannot sit as the tribunal officer because he will be recommending to himself. This is a dynamic that is not encountered on a daily basis. Therefore, the Commissioner now has to look at the legal implications in relation to establishing a tribunal, and it may take some time. Whilst it is we want to ensure that any perceived breaches of discipline is dealt with because we want to maintain a disciplined organization, it is important that due process be observed. We cannot sacrifice the outcome to be expedient and at the end of the day not be able to stand up and represent what it is we have to do by law. So in this regard, the association calls upon the Police Complaints Authority to not overstep its bound. Work within your remit and allow the Commissioner to manage the police service, and in so doing, deal with any issue of discipline regarding any officer, and in particular, Mr. Hackshaw at this time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Forde. And before I hand over to DCP Jacob, I will just take the battle from where Mr. Forde left off. To clarify the situation, now, when there's trying to be the perception that there's supposed to be a cover-up, to the members of the media, to the public, just to clarify, in the last 18 months, 77 police officers have been charged under my watch. 58 have been suspended. So under this Commissioner of Police, I give the assurance, and I think in the history of the police service, we have never seen such numbers. So it means that we are cleaning up the police service. But in the same manner, I am not here to try to impress anyone, to try to lift numbers to make me look good or bad, or the police service. We can only do things based on transparency, professionalism, and I am not going to be pushed or bullied by any lynch mob out there, by any little children who want to try to be activists, turn politician, turn activists again, and put pressure on people. You could get probably less than 1% in the constituency you went up as a political party. But now is not the time that you feel you could try to make yourself relevant by trying to pressure this Commissioner of Police. You feel as an activist, you feel as a politician. Now you're trying to come back as an activist by sending press releases to try to demand that the Commissioner of Police must act. That is the reason why it is that you were rejected at the polls with less than 1%. So you are now the new 1% of politics in Trinidad and Tobago. So he could wait all he wants, but I could tell you now that this Commissioner of Police will not act in an irresponsible manner. Based on what I have just shown you, 77 persons charged and 58 persons suspended. This was done because we are cleaning up the police service. But as I said, we have no intention for a lynch mob. What we have seen by the Police Complaint Authority, as Mr. Forde has stated, I think it is irresponsible. You come and meet with us, send a whole booklet with hundreds of pages, dozens of persons interviewed, and all that you can come up with is that Mr. Hackshaw, whilst on a year vacation for a few weeks or whatever, he decided to work elsewhere on his own time, and he did not get the permission from the Commissioner of Police, where he said he did, and the person who acted said he did not. So that is his word against the other. But it is not a criminal offense. It is not a crime. So persons who do not understand the difference between a criminal offense and someone deciding to work on their own vacation period. So I ask all persons, if it is that you're elsewhere in the private or public sector, if it is that you decided to work and you didn't inform your boss while you're on vacation, it is along that same line. The difference is the police service, we have a very high standard. And the reason we have this in our regulations is to ensure that if you decide to use your expertise as a police officer, it must not be used in a manner that can affect or embarrass the image of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We looked at what it is he was doing, and again, there was absolutely nothing. Now, before I hand over to Mr. Jacob, it goes back to the point. Even so, there was a recommendation made by the PCA. And we have seen Mr. Darren Bahau and his Bush lawyers in that Newsday article, Mr. Seals, who are probably still trying to suffer from Mr. Banker as a politician, decides to rush now to give comments as to who they know better than the Commissioner of Police. If Mr. Seals spent more time doing law in the police service, then he would have understood the error in his ways. Mr. Forde has just educated Mr. Seals and others of the point. The point of the matter is that when people are trying to state, well, it doesn't mean that Mr. Hackshaw is in such a position that he cannot be touched. That is not our fault. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, based on the regulations, based on the laws, this constitution has been structured in such a professional manner to ensure that no one is above the law. This has nothing to do with a criminal charge. If there's a criminal offense, even the Commissioner of Police, I can be arrested and charged by a police constable because it is a criminal offense. If it is that a charge is laid, a junior officer can take action on that senior officer. As it pertains to a disciplinary matter, whether it is, and again, if we go back to even the Express editorial. The Express editorial yesterday, Omati Leiter, unfortunately, again, they have Bush lawyers that they get advice from. She puts in the article in the Express yesterday, having the audacity to state that the commissioner says he cannot resolve this situation. So maybe the Police Service Commission must immediately step in and show him how to do it. The audacity of the Newsday trying to state that it means that I do not know how to do it, so get the PSC to step in. Omati Leiter and the Express editorial yet again dropped the ball. The PSC, ma'am, have no authority to take any action on an ACP. He's not a DCP or a police commissioner, but you want to rush in there to feel that you know better than anyone else, to embarrass your newspaper yet again, because you feel that you want to know, you feel you know what should be done. Constable Brown, they call her Boy Blue. They always know what the police can do, and they do not do research. But because of editorials and emotion, you decide to send this. And when these things are published, it gives the public the wrong perception, which is what we're doing here, clarifying the irregularities, the erroneous comments made, especially by the Express and the Newsday over the last few days in these matters. People must not use their own interests or their own emotions of how they feel about a matter. I will ask the media, you're supposed to be balanced and be professional. If they contacted me, I would have avoided the embarrassment that they have put forward to the public by misinforming them. So the fact is, in contrast to what the Express has stated, the PSC has no involvement. So they can't show me what to do, Umati Laida and the Express, because they have no involvement. Mr. Hackshaw is an ACP. The PSC only has authority to take disciplinary action on DCPs or the COP, which is why, had he been a DCP, action could be taken on Mr. Hackshaw by the PSC. So that rules that out. So any DCP or PSC, or COP, sorry, if it is that a similar report came from the Police Complaint Authority, it could have gone straight to the PSC and action is taken. In this situation, Mr. Hackshaw is the most senior ACP in the police service. I am the only person senior to Mr. Hackshaw. So everyone, let us make it easier for you. Imagine if you are the head of a newspaper, and you're the most senior person. Do you think that a junior person can take disciplinary action on you for an internal matter? The answer is no. But the fact is that Mr. Jacob will now explain why I cannot at this time, because, as Mr. Forde would have briefly mentioned, I cannot be judge, jury, and executioner. I cannot be the complainant. I cannot be part of the tribunal and then give findings of the tribunal to then be sent back to me for me now to take action on Mr. Hackshaw. Had there been 3 substantive DCPs, this matter could be dealt with immediately. It is not the fault of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service that I do not have 3 official DCPs. Had that been the case, I would have been the person as a complainant. I would have appointed 1 or 2 of the DCPs, and within days, this matter can be rectified. So in contrast to Mr. Seals, who yet again has proven that he doesn't have a clue what he's talking about, in contrast to Mr. Darren Barhow and his Bush lawyers in the Newsday, in contrast to Umati Laida and her misinformation in thinking that the PSC can deal with it, I will now ask the DCP Intelligence, the acting DCP Intelligence, Mr. Jacob, to clarify. Mr. Jacob.
Yeah, good afternoon to members of the public and all present. You know, my main concern as the person in charge of intelligence and investigation is in relation to all these information being in the public, being ventilated in the public per se. A tribunal set up in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is conducted in a particular way, like a court matter, like a matter before a magistrate or a judge. The person who is before the tribunal will have the opportunity to have representation. That person representing him in some instances could be an attorney at law. So similarly, you notice that when we are doing investigation, we try our best to ensure that a lot of that information concerning that investigation is not ventilated in the public, so that when the matter comes before the court, the question of bias, the question of persons with pre-trial information will not interfere with that investigation. That similar principle applies to a tribunal within the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Even though the standard in the tribunal is lower than in the court, is on the civil standard and a balance of probability that exists, you still require to adhere to all the requirements to the rule of justice. So what is happening is that I am asking individuals, right, and the various institutions to desist from this ventilation of the information within the public, because it will interfere with us getting a conviction in matters that we bring in tribunals or even before the court. So again, it's the same principle that applies. So even though if we pass that level of getting a tribunal to set up, as the commission mentioned, it is very difficult because of the situation, we'll still end up in some form of difficulty to get a conviction because we are actually creating that atmosphere to ensure that if the person is charged, they can now not be convicted because of the unfairness to them because it was already ventilated in the public and everybody commented and everybody came up with particular outcomes. So it will interfere with the whole tribunal. So let us take heed and stop ventilating all these matters within the public. So the institutions who are responsible, let's stop it now and do what is required. Similarly, how we carry out a criminal investigation. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Chandler, just.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. I just want to summarize what Mr. Forde, Mr. Jacobs, and even the Commissioner has just stated, because I want to make sure that we get clear what they have alluded to and what they've set out is enshrined in the law, all right? Because I want to quote for you under Section 156, Regulation 156, sorry, right, which says that disciplinary proceedings cannot commence until the appointment of an investigating officer to look into the allegations and solicit an explanation from the officer in respect of whom the allegations are made. It goes further into Section 156, subsection 4, which says that the investigating officer shall hold an office higher than the officer concerned. So it's set out in the law, all right, the procedure and the process that has been alluded to. And we all know that persons in society in Trinidad and Tobago are very litigious, all right? The Commissioner has faced over 200, almost 300 matters, court matters from police officers. So it's very easy for people to jump and say, look what the Commissioner going to do again, right? He acting outside of the law, all right? No, the Commissioner is acting within the boundaries of the law. He is limited by the law, and we need to understand that. So for all those who have taken to Twitter, Facebook, and made all those public comments, whether attorneys pretending to be attorneys or saying that they get advice from attorneys, I don't know who attorneys you're talking to, but the fact of the matter is enshrined in the law. And as the Commissioner said, he cannot be, because he's the senior officer, he cannot be the investigating officer. He cannot sit as the tribunal and then turn around and self onto self and say, self, listen, I'm making a pronouncement on this. It cannot work. And there exists an anomaly within the organization where we do not have 3 substantive DCPs, as he said, and as a result of which, this is the end result. So it's a fact. And this is a fact that the PCA is well aware of as well, because they have a battery of lawyers that command the PCA. So I have no doubt that they know exactly what is happening here. And this is why I'm saying, and I repeat, we need to stop the scandalizing of this matter. There's nothing there, and we need to end it there. All right?
Okay, thank you. So before I open questions to the media, just to clarify yet again, so to Mr. Darren Baha and his Bush lawyers from Newsday, who helped him in the Newsday, yeah, Johnson, you could shake your head, you know it's true. To Umati Lyden and her advisors who gave her wrong advice, to everyone who, up to now, to even Mr. Seals, who still doesn't know if he's coming or going, up to now, no one has stated what the Commissioner, or even the 1% political party man, nobody could state this is what the Commissioner should do to make it happen. They can't, because Mr. Chandler has just shown. I have to work within the law. If the law has boxed me in such a situation based on police regulations, how can I act? So before the Mr. Seals and the 1% political party man and the Newsday and the Express, they're all making all these allegations and stating that the police should act and the police are trying to cover it up. I asked a question through one word: how? Explain how can it be done? It cannot be done. If Mr. Hackshaw was probably the 4th most senior person as an ACP, then I could have probably acquired 2 or 3 other ACPs to act in the tribunal, and that would have assisted me. But he is the most senior police officer in the police service at this time. So by him being the most senior police officer in the police service, other than myself, how can I act? Because I cannot be the person making the complaint, having the tribunal, putting the tribunal, and then making a decision, and then take action based on the findings of the tribunal. It cannot be done. So whether it is that people have the impression that we are trying to cover up, it would be irresponsible for the police service to be the ultimate institution when it comes to trying to deal with law and order and dealing with policies and then try to breach our own policies. based on their regulations that I have to adhere to. With that, I open questions to the media.
Good afternoon, Jensen Levin with the Newsday.
Hey, I didn't see you there.
Outside of a tribunal, can the Commissioner of Police institute any form of discipline towards Mr. Hackshaw for this breach of
No.
regulations?
The answer is no. No, let me clarify, Jensen. Now, had it been a situation which remember when I spoke about any police officer who is charged for any violent crime, I would like to have the authority to immediately have those police officers fired. You remember the fight down I got from the public. They said, how dare I, because innocent until proven guilty. You know, there's a saying that you can't be half pregnant, but this is what we have, people half pregnant conveniently. So this is what I said, for a violent crime, if someone is charged, they should be fired immediately. That I don't even have the authority to do because I'm being fought down in the courts over that. But this is not a situation of a criminal offense that can give me authority to have someone immediately suspended. I can't suspend someone based on the fact that is based on him not adhering to police service regulations because he did not get permission whilst he was on a year's vacation to work for a few weeks for someone when he claims because he didn't get permission from the Commissioner of Police. So the answer is no. Unless there's a tribunal, it will give me that authority. And if that tribunal is not set up, how can I act and provide in a disciplinary manner over that individual?
Commissioner, please forgive my rudeness. How are you? You had undergone a surgery recently?
Oh, No, I did not. It was a gallbladder issue. I was down for a few days. I think, again, because of the situation, we do not have 3 substantive DCPs. However, there are 2 that I have right now. They are very competent. They have proven to be very effective. But because, again, the same situation, look at what we have gone through now with Mr. Hackshaw, because we do not have 3 substantive DCPs. If we don't have 3 substantive DCPs and a substantive COP, what is going to happen to the police service at this time? So I had a conversation with my gallbladder. We've come to a contractual agreement that I told him that I would behave myself and not put him under pressure, and he would likewise not give me pressure. But if he does, I am immediately going to have him extracted.
Following up on that same point, it's been going on 2 years now. When would the Commissioner of Police be on ongoing vacation leave? When would you be taking vacation?
On the 1st.
1st of September until?
The first opportunity I get.
Speaking of first opportunities, Commissioner, when last did you have any conversation with the PSC with regards to the confirming of DCPs?
Oh, well, no, I have to be very careful, Jensen, in that this is a very technical matter. I really shouldn't be lazy with the PSC about it. However, I have voiced my concerns. I think the PSC, I can't speak and I should not speak on behalf of the PSC, but I do know that they are doing as much as they can as quickly as possible. But it is a situation 2 years since I've been Commissioner of Police and I do not have any substantive DCP. And because of that, we have the continued rotation. I have DCPs come and go because what happens is the 3 most senior persons become DCPs. It is not to say that it's the 3 best persons. I mean, two of the persons here, I could see them as being the best in the police service at this time. Mr. Forde, stop blushing, I'm watching you there. But the fact of the matter is that they need to act on it. There's nothing that I can do. There's a process, and unfortunately, we have not. I really would not be able to clarify further. I just hope, it is hoped that on behalf of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, this can be rectified as quickly as possible. And as I stated, if we had 3 substantive DCPs, they would have all 3 been senior to Mr. Hackshaw, who would have been an ACP. And with that, it meant that we could have immediately acted on the PCA's recommendation.
Are you confident then that Mr. Hackshaw would have breached the TTPS regulations?
No, well, I would not be able to state that unless the tribunal is held, and then the investigation would take place, and then based on the findings, only then. So I can't work based on hearsay, perception, my view of the individual. I don't like Mr. Hackshaw, I don't like or don't like Mr. Hackshaw. It is irrelevant to me. I would arrest my mother if she breaks the law. But in the same manner, I wouldn't go out of my way to arrest someone because I do not like them. And the same manner, I have to operate in regulations as the police commissioner. So in this situation, it is not, there's a recommendation made by the PCA, based on police service regulations, if you're on vacation, you need to get permission from the Commissioner of Police. On most occasions, almost every single time it is sent to me, I would approve it, unless I believe that it is in conflict to our regulations, it may embarrass the police service, or that your actions can actually become in conflict with your own work as a police officer. Because on most occasions, when this request is made, it's not during vacation, it is because you want to form your business, you want to have your go to sheep farm with your family, you want to run a lotto booth or whatever. So we must make sure that when I give that approval, there's not going to be a conflict that is going to affect your performance whilst you serve as a police officer, because there must not be that conflict of interest. I don't think it was based on someone being on 2 years vacation and for 2 weeks he decides to do a little PR somewhere, or if a police officer decides to go and provide security for Bliss or Hearts or Humor, that you're supposed to come to the Commissioner of Police. However, because I have been so stringent to ensure that police officers must not do that, we would have seen for Carnival, whereas for years gone by, the police attendance would have been 70% odd. It has gone now to 98%.
Given your criticism of the PCA head, are you of the view then that he should be removed?
It is not for me to say. I don't know if Mr. Forde would like to give a comment on that. What I can state is that Mr. West, right now, his actions, it is not helping. As the Commissioner of Police, I have been very open, very honest. There have been many meetings we have with the PCA. My concept is the PCA is an independent institution. They play a very big part, but his actions cannot continue. Mr. West seems that he has put his hat a little too high, and he needs to know his place. When you made a comment to state that the biggest gang in Trinidad and Tobago is the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, as you as a PCA director, since then, that has put a very strong strain between the relationship between the TTPS and the PCA. One will think that he would have matured and understood and knew his place. You don't go ahead and send a statement to me to say that the police officers in the Mover shooting should all be suspended. Before it gets to my desk, like in schoolboy fashion, you rush there and send it to the media before it gets to me. Then we know you have an agenda. Mr. West needs to understand his position, and I hope that his actions is not based on him being put under pressure, and he decides to do a cop-out, because he's not a cop, and he decides to pass this information on to the public, to tell the public, hey, my hands are clear now. I have sent a recommendation, so don't blame me. Mr. West cannot operate in that manner.
Now, does he, you may not have the answer for this, but as far as you are aware, the Police Complaints Authority, do they have any legal obligation to inform the Commissioner of Police prior to issuing media releases?
No, it's not legal. It has to do with common sense, ethics, courtesy. But sometimes that has to be within you. If you don't have that, the way you're brought up, you will operate in that manner. My point being is when you do this, if you decide to say, well, I don't have to tell you anything, well, then now you have strained the relationship between the police service and your organization. And the fact is, when you try to use the flimsy excuse to say, well, it is in the public's interest, because a police officer who was on a year's vacation decides to spend a few weeks in that year vacation to work elsewhere, and he didn't ask for permission from the commissioner, that is in the interest of the public. Mr. West feels that the public has nothing more interested to think about. That is of interest to the public. This is not about a senior officer involved in fraudulent activity and a crime has been committed and we need to take decisive action. This is about a police officer on a year's vacation, and all that you could find with all of your work done, everything here, all that you could find is not that he committed a crime, not that he broke a law, not that he has put the police service into disrepute, not that he has acted irresponsibly. He had a year's vacation, and then in that year vacation, whilst you're doing your own thing, you decided to work and do some consultancy for someone, and because you didn't ask for permission from the Commissioner of Police, that becomes something so critical that the public has to know about before the police decide to form a tribunal.
Mike, this is the first of my last 3 questions. The head of the PCA, Mr. West, would have apologized for the gang statement when he made it. Is it that the TTPS is unforgiving?
No, not at all. But the fact is that, you can't continue to do the same thing over and over and keep apologizing. It means that you're not changing. If you want to have a good relationship with the police service, if it is you did something, obviously, that you will think that you will change your ways. You don't rush and send and be pressured by people and then after rush and do press releases, and then come back and try to deceive people, try to make comment. Let me take it back. That you'll say that, well, this is in the public's interest. How is that in the public's interest? Stop using cop-outs. So if it is you want to have a good relationship with the police service, have some respect for us.
Moving away from this for a little bit, has the TTPS been made aware of reports that a couple COVID-19 patients would have absconded from one of the facilities? And if so, what is being done about that?
No, but what I can say that there actually is a police officer who right now, he has recently been charged for such action. We'll send a release out shortly on it. So the fact is, this is for police officer who you know that you're supposed to adhere to something and you have breached regulations. And if you could be charged, it means that if it happens to the police, it could happen to anyone. So the point being is that if it is that you know you're supposed to be quarantined, you know that you're being tested, do not break the regulations. Because if you break the regulations, whether it is your police or thief, we would actually have to deal with it.
Can you give us an update on two things, my final question? The $94 million drug bust, I know 2 people would have been released in relation to that out of the few that were arrested.
Oh, Mr. Jacob.
That investigation is still ongoing. In fact, the person's lawyer went to a judge and they got a writ for the release, but the investigation is still ongoing. Very soon you'll get the outcome of that investigation.
And my final question, it pertains to the NLCB and illegal playway. There's allegations that over 90-something billion lost over the years because of illegal playway. What, if anything, is the TTPS doing to rectify this?
Yeah.
We have established a special team headed by an assistant superintendent of police who is working with them in doing the investigation concerning that illegal activity.
Good day, Vivian Bowen, ACP Network News.
You have plans?
I have two questions, well, 3, but he spoke a lot about the Hackshaw, so I'll move away for that for now. I wanted to know, last time I was here, I had asked for some cases, even before the woman trial issue, for the statistics of the Venezuelans, and they said you had some Venezuelans who were arrested, and also locals who were arrested for harboring, harassing, and you promised some statistics to go with that, with the whole Venezuela issue. That's the last time we were here, right? And they said you'll have brought it this time. You have any...
Sorry, I forgot. I'll get it to you before you leave.
All right, cool.
We have it.
Second thing is, I would like an update on tasers, pepper sprays, and the body cams of how it is distributed among the divisions.
Yeah.
Right? So
Okay.
those 2 questions for now.
Okay, the last question first. In the upcoming fiscal year, I've made a request for 1,000 additional body cameras. It is not again, the ideal scenario is for every police officer to have their personal issue, so you can't have an excuse and say you did not have it. Likewise with tasers and pepper spray. The tasers and pepper spray, in fact, it has been used recently on several occasions. It has proven to be very effective, and I think it will play a very big part towards ensuring the police have the minimum use of force policy. The minimum use of force policy starts with verbal persuasion. You then move to the radio that officers will have now for backup. Then you can have the battle being pain compliant, not pain compliant, but to suppress the individual. And then you move to the pepper spray, tasers, and the firearm being the last use of force. It has proven to be effective. Those officers, if they did not have that, they may have been forced to use their firearm, and by using the firearm on someone who's approaching them with a cutlass or being very aggressive, then automatically that's where the lady with the towel saying the police too wicked would have turned up. Thankfully, because of the use of pepper spray and tasers, we have been using it. We intend to pull it out. We've sent it to all of the frontline units, SORT, GB, IATF, MOPS, the task force. They've been in front line, as well as the emergency response patrol. So the body cameras, we intend to do the same. What I have to obviously is to try to get buy-in for all police officers to understand this is of value to them. There's the perception that the country wants police officers to have body cameras to say, aha, look, we catch you. But it is just the opposite. It ensures on many occasions the lady in the towel who will ball the police only too wicked. It will allow the police to be able to say, this is exactly what happened. So a police officer who is above board, who is doing everything correctly, he should want to have his body camera on and to turn it on so that when all of the persons decide to make false statements on him, he will now have the ideal tool and the evidence to show that all of the people, what it is you said was incorrect.
Okay, well, we'll stick to that point for a second. Pertaining to the body cameras, I noticed something from a little research I did, because something could turn on and off. Does the police service have like a disciplinary action that will be taken for officers who turn off their body cameras?
Yeah, no, the problem with the body cameras that we have now, the body cameras, it's battery operated, obviously. And so a police officer, on most occasions, they're on vehicles, they're on patrols. So when they're on patrols, we have actually seen the use of the body camera for officers who have it. We saw it's about a 12% use. So we said, wait a minute, so you're only using it 12%. But that is not true. What happens is if you're in the vehicle, why have on your body camera, especially when we have the live cameras on the ERP vehicles, so everything that you're seeing throughout from that vehicle is being fed to the operational command center upstairs here in real time. The standard operational procedure, the drill, is that when you come out of your vehicle, then you turn it on. What we need is to have ensure that these SOPs will be it's being put, that all police officers, when you leave your vehicle, it must be switched on, because that is the time when it is you have to go to a crime scene, you have to deal with confrontation. So that has become mandatory practice now, an SOP that all officers who have the body cameras, when you come out of your vehicle, it must be switched on, not have it, because you keep it on a patrol for 2-3 hours in your vehicle, by the time you really need it, the battery may have died.
And will there be disciplinary actions if they take it off?
Yeah, definitely. That is the reason why we have regulations. So if you do not adhere to the regulations based on a departmental order made by the Commissioner of Police, if you do not adhere to it, well, then obviously action will be taken. But I do not want this to be seen that this is something of a stick method being used by the police. I want officers to understand the value of these cameras. These cameras will be able to protect you and probably ensure that if wrongfully accused, that will be your get out of jail free card.
And I heard you say just now that there will be 1,000
additional body cameras.
Body cameras. For the tasers and the pepper spray, tasers in particular, how many do they have in operation presently?
Ooh, you remember that offhand? I ordered another, so about 500 odd, so it is being issued throughout. And what you're going to see again in the transformation of the police service, what we are pushing now is to get back, and it happens now in North America and in Europe. For far too long, many police department services, whatever you call them, we spend too much time inside of the vehicles. I am changing that concept. We need police officers back out on the streets. We need them to be on the streets, patrolling, walking the beat. That is where it is you get to interact with the public, you provide higher visibility, the public gets to meet with you, you get more information, and we have not been doing that. We sit in our vehicles and we patrol throughout the country. Unfortunately, the majority of the policing that you see with that type of policing is municipal police, where I do not have full control in the operational capability, because that goes more with the municipal corporation than the Commissioner of Police. So it is hoped that even with the municipal police, they have their own budget through that line minister, that probably they should also start having the body cameras, but that is not for me to issue to them. That is a separate budget, separate type of policing, different role and function. My police officers involved heavily in the type of patrols that we have. We're going to start seeing much more of that. Police officers, and you could just be at a station where it is, let's say, St. James. You step out, you walk Western Main Road, up and down, you get back. Having several officers stay inside a station is not the avenue for the new concept of policing.
Okay, and two last questions. One, coming back to the different, it was actually, I had asked for the people arrested and held, right? Even people arrested and held for crimes against the Venezuelan. Because at that time, it was the girl.
Oh, it was against, okay, fine.
Yes,
okay.
yes, that was. Okay, so we'll just go back to the hack shock thing now. We're trying to understand, because I haven't really been following up on it too much. But who is responsible for getting this tribunal organized?
Well, it will be the Commissioner of Police, but the fact is that for me to form a tribunal, you can't form a tribunal on someone and the individuals in the tribunal, they're all junior to the person who they're investigating, and that therein lies the problem. Because if it is that the person, how the police service was set up, if the most senior ACP commits any act of indiscipline, you will now have 4 persons senior to him that can now you can have the commissioner direct it, and then you have 1 or 2 DCPs that will be part of the tribunal to act on the most senior police officer, junior to the DCPs.
I get that. What I'm trying to figure out is, so what are you saying is that there's no rectification, that there's a stalemate because they doesn't have this?
The fact of the matter is nothing that I can do because I don't have 3 DCPs.
So who will be able to sort this out?
The PSC.
So he have to,
The PSC is not a he. It's a
oh, she has to get a,
no. Okay. The Police Service Commission is a commission, and they are the ones who have to, they are the persons who appoint the DCPs.
oh, so are you, this is what I've understood, and this is what I'm trying to get at. Is it that a case, sorry to be a little,
That's okay.
right, is it a case that you are trying to force their hand to bring in a DCP at the same time?
Not at all. The fact is, obviously, in the interest not of the Commissioner of Police, but in the interest of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and the interest of the public, it will be obviously beneficial to the country to have 3 substantive DCPs.
So generally speaking, it will be beneficial to have 3 substantive DCP, even not considering this case with Mr.
Yes.
Hakshaw.
Yes.
Hey, Commissioner.
Yes.
Someone just wanted to find out if there are any more senior officers on pre-retirement leave than Hakshaw, and if so, can they be used to...
No. The fact of the matter is that, remember, the government had a policy where you can't, the individuals after they leave, I can't bring back someone who is on pre-retirement. That has to come, again, external. The Commissioner of Police, I do not have that authority.
But are there anyone that fit that?
I think there'll be 2. There'll be Mr. Williams and Mr. Dulal. No, not Mr. Williams, sorry, Dulal Chanan. Oh, Ola Christopher.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if a tribunal is to be established, you would have to seek government intervention
Well,
to
no,
bring
well,
them-
if the persons are out at this time, it will require to have those persons come back in. I think it'll be much easier, come back into the system. It'll be much easier to have I do not know when the 3 DCPs may come about. It could probably happen within a few weeks. We do not know. Again, because of the situation now that the threshold for DCP, the persons must have a master's. Yeah, I think the numbers, it would not be in my situation where 54 persons applied and 24 applied for that of Commissioner of Police. And by the way, I actually got the highest marks for all who applied for Commissioner of Police. Just by the way.
By the way. The Santa Flora Police Station, is it closed? And what's the reason for this? I was seeing something circulating that you'll be operating out of the La Hoqueta Police Station.
Oh?
San Rafael, sorry.
San Rafael.
San
Yeah,
Rafael.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we are moving forward to convert some stations into particular facilities. It will still be a police facility. So San Rafael is one of these stations that is in fact earmarked to be converted into a facility and not necessarily a reporting station per se. But the district will be served effectively by patrols and other things, and there will be a particular, we have to decide on a particular group of officers who will be based in San Rafael, but not necessarily to do the sort of work that is being done at this point in time.
And how many other police stations are you planning to convert into this new facility?
Yeah, I will pass that on to the Commissioner,
How many,
because
sorry?
there's a general plan.
What's that?
You want to know how many stations we have planned to convert in that way.
I'll have to get back to you. I honestly don't know. I wouldn't have that confirmed.
And my final question is, how does the Commissioner of Police feel going on 2 years in the job and has not been appraised by the PSC?
No, I have.
You have?
I have received it. I need to verify with the PSC if it is, I can have it made public, but I have received it.
And how long ago was this?
This was just about a few weeks ago. And it was comprehensive. Obviously, what the PSC they're doing now is totally different to what would have been done years gone by. They looked at hundreds of different elements. They look at every single thing, the cost-benefit analysis, the crime, the statistics, public perception. They looked at the finances, dealing with manpower strength. So there's a lot that they did to come to their decision. I can actually bring forward I do not have an issue forwarded to the public. Sorry.
And what is your view on your appraisal? Do you like it? Do you like it? They could have done better. They were a little too harsh.
You wait till you see it.
So I will see it.
Well, if the PSC doesn't have an issue with me having it sent to the public, I would. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Just to clarify one point, there was something that came out in social media that we were seeing pertaining to an event down the islands a few weeks. Well, it came out a few days ago, and the only reason I'm bringing this forward is that I will continue to clarify any matters if they become that perception that the police service will become biased in any form or fashion. We do not care who you are, where you live, whether it is your green or tangerine, your ethnic composition, geographical location, your financial status, your political affiliation. We look at each and every person and we ascertain if it is that you would have broken the law. You would have seen the persons that they were down the islands, and immediately it came about, there it is, the 1% or whatever. Now, initially we were hearing this concept about this party with 200 persons. Up to now, as the Commissioner of Police, I have no information, I have no documentation, I have no witnesses or evidence of any such incident taking place. So I cannot work, unfortunately, on Rum Shop Talk. The fact is that there was another video and they said, oh, this is it. When you look at that video, the simple concept is, when was this taken? And that's the first thing. If it is that we cannot operate, if it is that someone is willing to come forward and give evidence and say, listen, I was there at that time and this situation took place at a certain period when the regulations would have been less than 10, less than 25, and the law would have been broken, that is something totally different. However, I have not seen that. No one has brought forward information. So I can't work on a video that could have been 3 years ago, or it could have been during a period when it was less than 25. The difference, however, is when if the police cannot turn up down the islands, unfortunately, we do not have a Scotty that can beam us up from Trinidad and Tobago to Chaco or Gaspar Grande. We can't just turn up there immediately. When we patrol, and in a patrol we actually see something taking place, the police immediately respond. We will go into the area, and the police officers now become the witnesses for such a situation, and that's why persons can be arrested. So regardless of where it is, who it is, we would operate. But we can't work on someone. I ask the public, so when you see a video, you automatically say, look what is happening, and no one, and nothing is being done. What are we going to charge the persons on because they can't dance properly? That is not my business. So before I close, it's like, Johnson.
Yeah, as you raise that topic, there's a flyer circulating on social media as well, promoting a party for August the 29th by an individual who would have hosted another party. Has the TTPS received any information on this?
Yes, I have received this. We received several of these. On some occasions, we have seen that this has been just a wild goose chase because they'll put this out and there's no date, there's no location, there's no contact for where it is you're supposed to go. So sometimes people are just putting this out just to be mischievous. There are some, however, we have intelligence and we would monitor. So I would not say much more on that. So what I can say, however, as it pertains to my health, to all of the criminals, to all of the supporters, financiers, and sympathizers of criminals, I'm back.